Now, I've just come out of Afghanistan, a country that's been in conflict for more than 30 years, hasn't had a census since. They're looking at developmental policies. They're getting advice from the international community on where they should develop, but the simple fact is nobody really knows where Afghanistan's competitive advantages are at this point. We know that, yes, they do have some mineral wealth in the north in terms of copper. Historically, they have looked at dried fruits on the market. But in terms of their population, how will these industries support that country? Are they labor intensive or labor appropriate? What kind of skills actually exist? These are questions that many countries cannot answer. And I was in a discussion just the other day in Geneva, and we talk about a concept of employment targeting. Many of you are looking at macro variables and growth. The question many countries are asking coming out of the financial crisis, how do we go about this? How do we ensure that we create employment for the population? The issue is, even the U.S., Obama's come out and said a comment about spending, I think, what was it, 2.5 billion? Excuse me, create 250 million jobs along that lines? No, so 2.5 million jobs. The question is, how does he go about that? We talk about economic stimulus package in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of, once again, rebuilding roads, rebuilding the bridges, and also investing in new technology. But we need to really look at how we're going to go about that. And in terms of your work as researchers, I think looking at those impacts, looking at the data that are available, but also highlighting the linkages to social issues, is a challenge for us. Because if we are to move forward from this crisis and use it as an opportunity for growth and development, we have to ensure that we're giving the right policy advice, not only in terms of the industrialized economies, but also in terms of the developing world. Our challenge continually is we're asked to basically give advice to countries in terms of growth and development, and to ensure that growth and development creates decent and productive jobs. In Tanzania, for example, the president has come out and said they want to create 1 million jobs in the next 3 years. Well, creating jobs is not a problem. We can create jobs very quickly, but will those jobs be decent and productive? And more importantly, will they be sustainable? Creating employment's easy. Creating decent employment that you will basically continue to grow and be part of what we call the virtual spiral is the real challenge. If you take a look at the development policy in the U.S., rebuilding the roads and infrastructure is a short-term solution. But the long-term solution is looking at new sectors of the economy in terms of creating green jobs, as we call them. This is something that might be sustainable. So there's a lot out there to look at. In terms of our database, we cover a number of indicators that we determine to be appropriate for different countries. In terms of the MIMUS database, the data that we produce in the key indicators of the labor market is available online and is updated regularly. If, in addition to that, I'm not really sure, I can't recall if the MIMUS also includes the manuscripts for the indicators or not. Do you know? Okay. In that regards, if you're interested in looking at labor market indicators, you can actually tap the database out of MIMUS, but also on our website we have access to the various indicators, but the instructions are there to how they are measured, what they mean, how they should be interpreted. And it's written more for people that are not familiar necessarily with labor markets. It's designed for policymakers and also academics. Now, here are a list of the key indicators, and it's probably difficult for you to read from the back, but we're going to cover issues on the amount of employments, the types of employments, earnings, hours of work, productivity, concepts of working poor, and vulnerability. And this is really cross-cutting in the sense it's designed not just to look at developing economies, but developed as well. Not all countries will have all 20 indicators, but they are relatively harmonized in terms of their definitions and sources. Most of the data are coming from labor force surveys, roughly about 70%. The others are coming from establishment-based surveys, or in some cases we're relying on other types of information such as household surveys to gather the poverty estimates. But to the most part possible, we try to harmonize and standardize the data. But if you have questions in the MIMUS data set, or if you access our website, the metadata are available. We'll tell you the scope of the coverage, we'll tell you the type of the survey instruments, reference periods, or any anomalies that we do find. So